Welcome back to Making History, and we're at the Woomerang launch site, or Woomer if you want to think of the real world, I guess. Yeah, so it's up here near the mountains, and we've got some new mods, well, old mods, but mods back in play, so everything looks a little bit nicer. We've got X Science, which can do the notification when things are ready to be collected, data. And let's just get going, shall we? Let's just turn on the SES and Jebediah. I should probably put Val in here, but let's just take off, and you can see we can get some science already. So mystery goo, no, I'm not going to bother about that, but I will happily transmit the crew report. I'm probably going to head over towards the mountain area if I can. That seems like something we should probably do. And yeah, this rocket is so long. Ooh, I hope that doesn't damage the launch pad. That we're going to be tipping this quite slowly, hopefully to start with. Oh, that sounds... Oh, okay, so more crew reports and a temperature scan. Happy to send both of those, don't have to recover them. And we're going to start tipping this way, of course, and heading towards those mountains. This is Highlands, so I just wonder whether that will actually improve things. I wish I have more control now, so let's just pull ourselves back towards this direction. And look at that. It's a nice view, isn't it? We may not get into orbit with this thing. It's mainly here for science, and we're still Highlands. I'm not sure if we're going to get mountain, but maybe. Let's keep on going across. And how much science have I got now? I want 45. We got 39. That's not great. But we did get one mission complete, which is the whole Mark 16 parachute into flight above Kerbin. And we're going to get some more science. EVA report and temperature scan, not so much. Crew report, yeah, that's the mountains. So good, we'll have that. It's biome dependent. You did probably, oh, you may not be able to see, but here we have a service bay. It has a couple of bio pods in it, so I guess we can collect those. It's not much, but we may as well keep it one experiment. And I've got a little indicator lights mod that tells me what's going on here, which is quite useful. And we have the barometer in there as well as the antenna. But with X Science, we don't need to go and manually open our bays. We can just keep going like this, and we just point towards prograde now that we have level 1 pilot. So there's our launch site all the way down there, and where do we end up if we have... Oh, actually I better... I don't want to use up all my fuel just in case I need to do some maneuvering. However, we get some space science. I think... Should we keep that or transmit it? I think I want to keep that, and we'll transmit the crew report again. And where will we come down? We'll go pretty high. In fact, that's good enough to get space high science, I think. And we should come down here. But of course, Kerbin's going to rotate underneath us, so it's probably going to be over here somewhere. Let's see how that is. And of course, this thing does have a heat shield. A blater. See? I didn't go with the Russian Vostok kind of capsule because we didn't have any way to steer it yet. We don't have the... what are they called? I can't remember what the actual module's called, but basically the gyro. Okay. Do we get to space high? Let's fast forward. Up we go. In space near Kerbin Shores, and we can turn off that actual SES for the moment. We haven't got much electric charge otherwise. We're going to probably want to point retro once we go. There we go. So space high, crew report, mystery goo. Mystery goo we will keep, and crew report we will transmit. Oh, that's not good. Oh no. Well, let's hope everything is aerodynamically stable with that pointing towards the bottom. Let's see. Let's fast forward, shall we? We can turn off this now, and let's see how things go. And there's the atmosphere. So hopefully we should now start tipping. Yes, good. Tipping towards retrograde on the nav ball. And we need to wait until we get this to be the grey, so the safe area. Because we're coming in quite high, it also means we're coming in quite fast. So we definitely need this heat shield. It is still tipping, but it is nice and stable. There we go. It's heating up. But slowing us down enough now that we should be okay. Oh no. Jeb's lost consciousness. Oh, that's a G-force limit issue. Will he get consciousness back? I can't stage until he gets consciousness back. Oh no. Hey Jeb. Ah, there we go. Jeb's fine. Okay, so yes, I've turned on a lot of the difficulty options. So we now have this science vessel that is, yeah, a little bit extreme for poor Jeb. He's fine. Look, he's quite happy. Yeah, we'll see how we go on that one. So this should have given us more science, and one of the mission contracts was science 47. So we've got enough to spend a little bit more. And I'll see you back at the R&D department. Okay, here we are back on the ground, so we can pop into R&D, and note that I've unlocked this basic science node. It has the Stay Putnik, but we don't have any SAS for that yet. It can't really do very well. It can't fly very well, at least not without a separate module. The small inline reaction wheel was the module I was trying to think of. Reaction wheels in general, but this one specifically is the one that we want. So I don't have enough research points for that yet. The other main node that I think is a good early game one is the advanced rocketry up here. I need 45 science. We've got 28. So let's go ahead and build something to get us the rest of the science we're going to need to unlock the LV909, which is the good orbital, or even sort of translunar and transminmus engine that we can get. So assembled this. It's a very simple setup. It's just a tester for some material science. We can get a couple of different nodes there, and a couple of different, levels of science with this. And we've got a couple of radial mount parachutes. Nothing, nothing amazing. Let's just fly it on the default launch pad. Now, with material science, you're going to need to collect it. So we have put our decoupler below the rest of the... yeah, here you see, we can take a crew report, I suppose. We can transmit that. It's only 0.9 science, though. So if we turn SAS on, we know we've got Valentina down here, and we can take off. And the other mission we have is this one. Altitude 18,000 to 24,000. And we have to then use the decoupler at that particular point, I think. Is it? Test, yes. So we need to use the decoupler. So I'm just going to tip us over a little bit, just so that anything falling isn't going to have much of an opportunity to fall on someone. So we can transmit that, and we're going to take the first material science here, 10.5 science. Good. We can't EVA, of course, at the moment. And we're just going to keep going up this way. We don't need to worry too much about this other than the speed. And the speed we should be able to deal with, because we can rethrottle when we're not in, or we can dethrottle when we're not in, yes, Realistic Progression 1, my other current series in Kerbal Space Program. So we can just cut off the power here. We altitude the correct altitude, so now we can just choose to decouple. And we should get that mission. There we go. And we can take more material science, which is high. You can transmit it, but it just doesn't get you anywhere near as much science as you probably want. So up Valentina goes. She's probably going... is she going to go into space? Let's take a look. In fact, I don't have the Kerbal Engineer stuff in flight yet, because I don't have the MechJeb and Kerbal Engineer for All mod installed at the moment, which will build it into the pods. I have to actually put a separate piece on here to actually do it, and I don't have it at the moment, but that's okay. We can do that later. Valentina is not going to go into space. Nope. Up to 53 kilometers, and then straight back down again. So we'll just wait for her to start coming down. 50, 51, 52, 53. And at the very top, it's starting to fall back down again. So I will see you on the ground. This isn't terribly surprising. There's nothing really new here. So I'll see you on the ground. And with that flight out of the way, we can go and grab the top node, which I did, which is the LV909 stage. So I've got a rocket here. I'm just debating a little bit whether to have the Science Junior on the disposable part of the rocket, or well, in fact I need to make sure that separation is done separately there, on the disposable part of the rocket, or whether we want to keep it. And that's an interesting one. I've put an experiment storage unit up on here for now. The main problem is that we're going to need to loft this into the air. It's going to be quite slow to start off with. Its thrust to weight ratio is only 1.34. That's quite slow for a sort of Kerbal rocket. But it should enable to get us the mission contract. So I'm going to, for now I'm going to launch it, I think, and let's see how it actually goes. Who do we have installed? Have I put Val in here? I have. So let's take off. And the idea is we want to be able to use that science before we detach it and the rest of the rocket. And we need to be in space at that point, or at least above the atmosphere, so that we get the science. So let's see if this will actually work. Let's take off. As you can see, it's very, very slow to take off. But that should mean that we get this. See, we're going to have a speed issue as we're taking off. The altitude will be fine, but we need to stay under 160 by the time we pass 4,000. This is sort of meant for when you're coming back in, to be honest. But it should be fine when we're going up as well, if we just quite a slow takeoff. So I'm going to carry on going up. We should hit that. Only 400 meters at the moment, but that's going to start accelerating. And let's see if we can hit this. So 160 versus 50, and we're under 1,000 meters still. So yeah, we are going to have to slow down, but otherwise we should be fine. Okay, there we are. I just shut off the rocket very, very briefly, and we got correctly under 160, just a little bit. So onward now towards Apo, and I want to get Apo to be quite high and lofted out of the atmosphere rather than going much flatter. We do have this upper stage with an LV909 in it, which is part of that top research node. So let's see if we can get up and out of the atmosphere. Not efficiently, but at least to get some science. And here we are. This stage is now run out. So we're ready to lose everything from here on down. Or at least we will be once we get above the atmosphere. So another 10,000 meters, which won't take very long. And I suspect, yeah, we're not efficient at all. We're quite high, 112 APO. But we should still be okay for this. Are we going to get some new material science? Yes, we are. Okay, 15 science, that's what we want. And then we can use this to collect all the science. Good. And now we can lose our bottom stage. And we have more control of the upper stage because of those magic reaction wheels. And at this point we can use that stage. Now that we're out of the atmosphere, we should still have quite a bit of delta V. So, yeah, we've done that mission. We've got electric charge. Let's see what we can do with this. Oh, is that not detached? Is that shroud? Is that a heat shield? Why is there a heat shield on that? Okay, there goes the heat shield. They aren't very good at shielding heat from the inside. I must modify that on the craft design. So we should be able to look at this now, and we can see we should have enough power quite easily to get into orbit. We're just got to keep an eye on our fuel, of course. So we can, of course, relight in base Kerbal Space Program. So let's get up towards this. Time till APO is what we're looking for. So 1 minute is absolutely fine. So let's just tailor that a little bit, bring down our thrust so that that is staying around the 1 minute mark. Hopefully you can see that on YouTube, at the very, very top left there. I brought down the throttle, and we're going to leave it there. And we're going to keep ourselves pointing just near prograde. And hopefully that should be enough to get us into orbit with a bit of fuel left over rather than the one fuel I had left over. There's our fuel gauge. So is that going to be fine? We'll see, because I had to loft up fairly high. I just want to get some extra experience for Valentina. And no, because of that high loft, we're actually a little bit short, 51k periapsis, 100 and what? 127 apo. So yeah, we couldn't get really circular, which means I only have a very short amount of fuel now, or a low amount of fuel, but that will be fine to just use up near instantly on getting us back down into the atmosphere. There it goes. We can lose that stage now. Nothing else we can do with it. And we can turn off the SAS for now. Does Val get any experience? No, unfortunately not. But I guess we get experience at flying it. So we should have another bunch of science. We got 16 at the moment. What was that? Another 15 from the material science. And then whatever we get on the way up and go back down. Back down we go and see if we can unlock another node. Okay, so that excursion got us, well, grand total of 33 science now. Which is good, but not quite good enough to unlock one of those nodes. Let's take a look. Are they all 45? They are all 45. So what are the ones we're going to unlock next? Probably flight control or general construction, because general construction has a bunch of different things. Struts, decouplers, and the towers, of course, and some adapters. Aviation, not so much a fan of aircraft. Or we could go up into heavy rocketry, which is 90 science. And we've got some of the new making history engines in here, the Wolfhound. And that is, I think, the equivalent to the AJ10. It's the REJ10. Yep, there we are, liquid fuel engine AJ10. So just as like the one we were playing with in RP1, this has some good applications for upper stages. And we've got the skipper as normal and the poodle as you're used to seeing, and the kickback solid rocket motor. Okay, so we're probably going to get some more missions done. Let's take a look at those. So I've upgraded our launch pad to the next stage up, which allows up to 140 tons. And they can look in the mission control and maybe take this Explore the Moon mission. We don't have any of the other upgrades for the Space Center yet, so this is going to be interesting. Whether we can actually do it or not is something else entirely. So if we head out here, we would need to upgrade the tracking station, which is far too expensive, and the mission control, which is also far too expensive. So instead, why don't we go and take a look at what we can do with the current craft? So instead of having that really slow first stage, why don't we have first stage composed of these boosters? Just for part count limits, I can't really put aerodynamics on them, but they're only used as a kick motor to get us off the launch pad, so they should be okay. Crew, have we got Valentina? We do, so let's launch with Valentina. And we should be able to do much better now that we have a kick motor on that first stage. In fact, I'm hoping that this the second stage now, it was the first stage, is going to do much, much better and take us all the way into orbit. So I moved it around a little bit. I took off that heat shield, but also I put the material science all the way up here with the LV909 stage below that, and then the stage all the way to the bottom. So SAS on, fire. And as you can see, we're going much, much faster, much, much quicker. So I'm going to head across this way just a little bit. These are only going to last 23 seconds or so, so we're not going to get too much more of a benefit from them, just to get away from the launch pad merely. And we're already up to 350 meters per second though, and we're going to have to carry on up, and well, that's the problem with them destroying things dealt with. And now we can head up into orbit, just as we've done before. Okay, so we're above the atmosphere now, and we're nearing our apoapsis, so we can just use some more fuel and hopefully take us into orbit, or very close to orbit. I think it'll be just fine as is though. Yeah, you'll see it's pushing our apoapsis away, so we can just use a little bit of fuel just to keep the apoapsis in a comfortable amount, and that should then start bringing our periapsis up. How much fuel do we have left in this stage? Let's just bring this up a little bit just to make sure that it's keeping our apo roughly around 30 seconds now. As you can see, my throttle is really, really low. And our periapsis is coming up, so I'm going to get us to orbit. And there we go with the circular orbit. Valentina gets a full star of experience. And yeah, as we can see, circular. So the next thing is whether we can get to the moon. Now we don't have any ability to create any maneuver nodes, so we're just going to have to fire towards it when we see it, and let's see how well that actually does. That's the old rule if I remember correctly, so let's just get ourselves pointing prograde, which Valentina can now do quite happily all by herself, rather than any kind of SAS module. And we're going to want to move forward through the orbit a little bit. Not terribly much, but just enough to get... let's just turn this off. We're not going to need those. Just watching for the moon appearing. There it is. Okay, so let's point prograde. And we need about, I want to say, let me just look at what my notes say, around 860 delta V, and I think our craft has more than that. So let's point prograde and burn. It's going to use up some on our first stage. And we can lose that. And fire our second stage. Again, we're not going to know how well we've done this until we get closer to the moon. So this is going to be a bit tricky. Because we can't see any patch conics either. Which means I don't know whether I'm going to impact, go in front or behind the moon. Not great, you might think. Well, you're pretty much right. So I'm going to stop it right about there. Maybe there. Okay, and how much of our fuel tank? We've got half a fuel tank. So let's see if I did any good with that. So we can head out, and what we should end up with is just saying, hey, you got material study when we get to high. And I'm not going to worry too much about this at the moment. I don't have much in the way of science on here. It's just sort of flight proving whether I can actually do this. We shall certainly see. And we don't have any connection, so let's see this as we come around. We'll look a little bit early. Yeah, I think we are. Will we get an encounter? Slowing down at the very, very end. And yes, we will. Okay. And this looks to be a fairly safe encounter as well. Periapsis of, 1,000 kilometers. And we can have a crew report and a material study. And material study, we'll get both of them. Will get us, what was that, 35 points? We just have to get back to Kerbin now. And that's largely, we don't need to do much with our particular motor at the moment. But we will have to, just as we pass by, do something about this. Oh no, that's pretty ideal. Yeah, I'm actually quite happy with that. So instead, let's just warp back if we can. If it'll let us. No, you're not going to let me warp that way. Okay, well, I'll fly it in manually. And we will get to the point where we can come back down. Okay, so here we are coming back into our friend Kerbin, and we're going to flip around to point retrograde. Our mission is fine. It's fly by the moon Gallus scientific data. We did that. It's still on board. I guess we could transmit some of it. Review report and transmit that. And no usable comms device on this vessel. Well, I thought there was one built in. Fine. Never mind. It's still on board, so all we need to do is land again, of course. So, usual landing coming in here. We can get rid of our engine now, once we're pointing in the right direction. And we have our heat shield, and it's a normal re-entry from here. When I say normal re-entry, I wasn't expecting our material science bay to explode with the heat shield underneath it to then fall onto the back of our capsule, but it's doing its job even though it's not even attached anymore. So we have lost that science because we couldn't transmit it back anywhere. That's unfortunate, but we should still have the crew report, maybe. Well, we'll see once we get that back down to the surface, won't we? Oh, well. I guess we'll have to fly out there again. Time for Jeb to do it, maybe. So here we are. We've landed. We recovered the vessel. Crew report while in space, high above the moon. Unfortunately, no other experiment because we didn't take the experimental container with us this time. We recovered some bits. And Valentina's ready for the next assignment. Okay, so did we get that mission complete? I really, really hope we did. The amount of money we got, assumed we did. Yep, we did. Good. So we explore the moon, and that will let us do the same thing, I imagine. Yeah. So we'll get 38k for both of those objectives, and we'll get 26k in advance. So we're probably going to do that anyway at some point soon. Can we actually get anything else? 67 science, yes we can. So we can get more. We can't do heavy rocketry. We can do general construction, which will give us the towers, launch stability enhancers. Or we get flight control, which will get us inline reaction wheels, and the P re-entry module, which is the two-man sort of Vostok capsule. And we'll get that inline reaction wheel, which will go well together. Or, oh no, we can't get those. No, they're all 90 science. So we should probably do another vessel that is capable of doing exactly the same thing Val's doing, and probably next episode or between the episodes, just get some sort of more science from high above the moon using that same procedure, just burn what's on the horizon and then stop short, and you shouldn't have too much of a problem with interactions with the moon. Because you don't want to fling you off into outer space never to return. That would be a bad thing. So I think that's it for this episode. We've gone and flown past the moon. Next episode, maybe we should try and build something that's able to do something a little bit more flexible. Maybe slow down and orbit the moon, or possibly some unmanned stuff that we can get out there and get into orbit. Ideally, some kind of communication satellite at some point. But it would be nice to have a probe. I need some kind of unmanned probe in here somewhere. No miniaturization won't give me it. Electrics will. The Octo is in here. So if I can get 30 more science from the next sort of flight out past the moon, i.e. keep our material science, probably by some kind of method of using... In fact, let's just quickly rearrange this vessel now so you get the idea of what I'm probably going to do between the episodes. Here's our delta V, so, you know, our total delta V overall is 5.259. That is fine. So we're up here. What I could do is have this as a two-stage thing. So let's just remove this back again. Go to science, put this in its place, put that on top, and then we can put just a couple of units here. We'll get both of those for science, and then I guess I can just move this over, put a couple of these on, maybe near the top somewhere. So 5124, we had plenty of delta V spare in that stage. So what I could do here is have another decoupler. So if we just take this off like this, put our heat shield back in place here, and then we can have a decoupler. Assuming it lets me. Yeah, there we go. And in fact, we don't even need that one anymore, do we? Because this is going to get discarded with the rest of this as we're coming back towards Kerbin. So I think that's going to be the next sort of flight that we do out. We could even, well, if we have the service bay, do we? Yeah, we have the service bay. Assuming that this doesn't also burn up. We don't know what caused that heat shield issue, because it should be okay at dealing with this. We could then open this and just move our stuff into here, as you might do. Put it that way. Like that. Move our various bits and pieces in here. I only want one of those, don't I? Yeah, and then just turn it that way so it'll fit inside the bay. Same thing with the thermometer, fit that inside the bay. And then probably, I guess we can put that in here as well. Yeah. So underneath it's a flat part. At that point, this top section becomes relatively clean. And the last thing we probably want in there is an antenna of some kind, just so we can communicate with here. That's not going to be great. We have nowhere to really put that on the side except for down here somewhere, you know. And it's not going to be too great on the way up. So maybe I just put one of these in place. What's the difference between these? They're pretty much the same. except one's deployable and one isn't, so we can put this on the inside here. And that should just about fit in the bay once I do a bit of finagling. Yeah, close the bay. It's close enough. Yeah, so that looks much cleaner apart from this bottom section. And we've got problems with the part count now. We need to lose 4 parts somehow. Yeah, I'll figure that out. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do to figure that out. I may have to just take off some of those bio containers and just have one or something like that. And maybe take the Kerbal engineering part off, because that'll save a part count. Get rid of that. Make sure we've only got one of these, and then we've only got 1 part too many. And that's the extra part there, the experimental storage unit. So we may have to lose a part somewhere on here. I'm not quite sure which yet. Did we get rid of the antenna? We did. I'll figure it out anyway. And for next episode, we'll fly something that will actually work, hopefully. Alright, hope you enjoyed this one. Moon sort of encounter with, again, blind, just like the RP1 playthrough, but of course this is much, much easier to play than RP1. Hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of Making History. Feel free to thumbs up, subscribe, share as normal, and hit the bell if you want to see any kind of notification when I produce new episodes. Otherwise, as normal, thanks for watching.